be contingent for both occasions. But now they have developed a bi-directional impeller. So this impeller will go either direction, and we're going to buy that for the park. So altogether, it's $102,000.
Who drew the short straw on the bottom right?
Oh, they love it. They fight over it to get down in there.
Get paid more.
Yeah.
You cannot pay.
Now, the interesting part about that too is, as you can imagine, you're literally blind because you cannot see anything down there. So they go entirely by feel while they're down there. They have radio communication. We radio back, so when they stick their hand on something, we try to tell them what they grabbed a hold of and work
It's got me
through
having
it
a
that
golf
way.
right there.
Yep.
You don't like the guy? No, left.
Yep. Because there's work that physically has to be done down there. So for by feel, he goes down there and he just feels it. So for example, on the bottom of some of the shafts, there's a smaller impeller, so he can go down there, and that one, the paddles are about 2.5 feet long. He can go down there and he can feel that, and then he can feel the bolts. And of course, up top, like an astronaut or something, they memorize what they have to do. So they rehearse it.
One up top. anyway.
Up top, yep, and then they go down there. And then there's also a plate in the corner that sometimes gets damaged. When they come off, they'll hit that plate. That plate has to be repaired, so they unbolt it, put on a new plate, all while blind. It's pretty amazing. And there's only a few teams that do it.
How much are we saving with the warranty on this construction?
$50,000.
Good deal. All right.
Well, bless his heart, I move for
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on page 86 is the water quality protection area variance process. Josh, you got this?
I think so. I don't have any scuba divers in my presentation, but hopefully it'll be interesting. Chair Santamore, board members, appreciate y'all giving me a few minutes. I'm going to talk about our streamside buffer policy and our variance request process that was just recently approved by TDEC. And so I think this board has probably seen 7 or 8, I counted it up, variances since the policy was created in 2008, so they're not real frequent. We had a project that we thought could maybe request a variance, but then ended up the engineers designed around it. So anyway, we thought it was a good time with our new permit. TDEC is requiring us to have our variance process approved, and so that was approved in March. And just a little refresher on what a streamside buffer is. It's just the natural area of land alongside a stream or a wetland. I always have to remind myself that the water quality protection area is the area that contains that streamside buffer, so it's kind of the regulatory area. The streamside buffer, it shades the stream, kind of regulating stream temperature, holds the stream bank in place, provides habitat for aquatic life. So in places where our streamside buffer is intact, we actually have higher biodiversity scores. So in our recent permit, the state kind of changed their perspective on, I don't want to say they changed their perspective, but they're viewing the buffers more as a stormwater control measure. So they want us to have a program to inspect these long-term, making sure that they're being preserved, kind of viewing them as a filter strip. And let's see.
Next slide. I think I'll have to do it.
Oh, okay. So anyway, here's a kind of a picture of a healthy buffer. And this, I think, is Sinking Creek. You'll see there's really 3 zones that make up a healthy buffer. You got the canopy there that provides shade. Then you've got the understory trees, the grass and shrubs. And then you have kind of the stream side, the wet vegetation. And you see that little point bar there. If we'd been there late summer, early fall, I think it would be a lot of cardinal flower, bright red. So just showing kind of the diversity of plants inside a healthy buffer. You can go on to the next one. And then this is a kind of an overview of the buffer. This is our former buffers. We had 2 zones, and so the inner zone was in our former policy before we revised the ordinance. The inner zone was supposed to be natural, so, and then the outer zone could be maintained. And you'll see in this picture that obviously it's in a common area. There's no individual lots. And so this area was left to grow up, and so we're actually getting a much bigger buffer there. And this, I don't know, you can see all the stormwater discharges coming in, at least 10 of them. And even with all the stormwater coming in, the scores, the biodiversity scores are really high in this area because of the buffer being intact. You can go to the next slide. And then that's just a shot of the same area in the stream there, and that's Puckett Crossing. And so just a little bit about, we had to revise our ordinance to follow with the state, expand our buffer to 60 feet on impaired streams, and then healthy streams remain the same as before, 50 and 35 feet based on the size. And then, like I said, we kind of removed the 2 zones. And so the state said that these buffers have to be one single zone of vegetation. And then we adjusted the ordinance to no longer allow individual lots in the buffer. And then one thing that the state in the new permit said that you can average. We will allow buffer averaging. The next slide will explain what that is, only by variance. And so you have Overall Creek there that's a healthy stream, it's a large stream, so it would get a 50-foot buffer. You can see that was developed under our old policy. So it's 2 buffers, but nowadays it would just be a single zone. And actually behind you can see where it's been disturbed. So that's kind of one of the challenges we're facing, that TDEC could come in and expect that we make sure that that's being preserved as natural. And
You're talking about this?
yeah, right there where
Like a fire pit or something?
yeah, fire pit, yeah. And then it was just, if you kind of look in, there's a lot of clearing done. So technically TDEC could come in and ask us to enforce on that and ask them to submit a restoration plan to bring that back up to kind of the way it was, a natural. But so TDEC, in their averaging, they allow you have a minimum. So TDEC says you can come in from the set buffer. Yeah, John, you can hit that next one. And it's kind of a crude drawing, but you can come in as long as you don't exceed the minimum, but then you have to make up your ground elsewhere. And so what we saw is there's potential that we could, that some projects would need to both go into the minimum, TDEC's minimum, or they couldn't make up the ground with averaging. And so that would be a time where they would possibly request a variance. So there's actually 2 types of variance. One to go into TDEC's rules, and then one for city. You can go to the next one. And so anyway, TDEC wanted this procedure approved. As part of the process, they wanted us to identify circumstances where the buffer maybe couldn't be met. And so based on land use, project type, physical conditions. And then they also said, well, if you're going to possibly hear a variance, then what conditions would allow you to grant that variance? And so we developed an eligibility worksheet based off of that. You can go to the next one. And so these are kind of all of the conditions there. It's a long list, but all of the conditions that possibly would require a variance. And I highlighted probably the most likely ones: infill development, redevelopment where there's existing lots, legacy lots. So that's a subdivision that was master planned a long time ago, and then they have some remaining lots that would trigger the buffer policy. And then, so those are some of the conditions that we may see. But then we also had to give TDEC a list of conditions that maybe would help eligibility. And so stable streams, if a site can be designed to where they're minimally impacted, so they're infiltrating all their runoff, then we may allow them to proceed to the request. They're maintaining TDEC minimums. They're preserving a lot of wetlands. So those are all of the ones that we would consider when we're going through this eligibility worksheet. You can go to the next one, John. Anyway, just to sum up, this really hasn't changed any, but just a step-by-step, the candidate would come in, I don't know if that's a developer would come in, they would have a pre-application meeting with us. We would discuss the rules, maybe get started on the eligibility worksheet, and then they would maybe negotiate mitigation strategies, fill out some of the paperwork, and then we would accept all that, and then we'd send it out to staff for comment and review. And then after all of that, we would bring that package to you all, so you all could hear the request following the hearing procedures. If you all granted the request, then the applicant would receive a letter, and then eventually those plans would be incorporated into design. And so next one, John. And I just added this one on the end, and so a lot of our the buffer rules seem stringent, but there's a lot that can be done in these areas, especially in the common areas, that they wouldn't need to come to you all. They can do habitat restoration, they can incorporate natural trails, footpaths, educational viewpoints, view corridors, and so there's a lot of options that help us maintain the function of the buffer, but also allow folks to enjoy the streams in the buffer area. And next one. And so, yeah, that's all I have. I'm available for any questions you may have. There's a lot to throw at you all. I can provide you with the steps, more information if needed, and I expect it, and when we hear the next variance, I'll elaborate a little further on that.
So single family home. So my name is Kathy Knowles, and I want to build a subdivision. And I only want, instead of the 50, I want to do 30. Because it's gonna happen. It's gonna come up the first time that somebody wants to build a subdivision.
Yeah.
So are we gonna give that variance to that one developer? Because you give that variance to that one next developer, he's gonna want the same thing.
Yeah.
So how do you control that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the eligibility worksheet will help with that. Our first step is to see if they can get by with averaging, so if they can make up that buffer. But yeah, they're going to have to, yeah, John, they would have to demonstrate. The process is pretty tedious. They would have to demonstrate financial hardship. Then they would have to demonstrate that the impact on the buffer could be offset with water quality controls, stormwater controls that are above what's normally required, some sort of enhancement to the remaining buffer. And so, yeah, I think that it would be quite a bit to go through that, based on what we've seen so far, that they would like to design around it. But did that answer the question at all?
You skated around it, but it ain't.
Yeah, I'm good at skating around things. But yeah, it's going to be.
So are you the final arbiter of approval, or?
Yeah, Valerie would be. They officially write the request to the
Through you, and then go to
Valerie, but yeah, we're the one that's.
You have a recommendation.
Yeah, right, and well, ultimately it'll come to you all, but yeah.
And you all as a board for a variance
Mhm.
request.
And yeah, in that package,
And then council, yes.
yeah, that package, it would show everything. It would have a lot of attachments. We've got a mitigation checklist, like I said, the eligibility worksheet. I happen to have one here. But yeah, in all of those attachment maps, and again, there's just some conditions that we're probably not going to recommend that it goes forward. I mean, if they're in an area of stream where there's already eroding stream bank, the stream is listed for an impairment, that's gonna go against,
And Kathy can answer this, you probably see a river, you're like, no.
no, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it wouldn't have to go to council. It
Goes to this board.
Yeah, it goes
And that's
to,
it? It doesn't go on to council for final approval?
no.
Okay.
It goes to this board, and then whatever they would have to, in their design, they would have to incorporate. So if they decided, if we allowed them to do the averaging, then that would show up in their design. They would have to modify their design. I think,
So the board can't the council can't override this.
I don't think so, but,
I
Well,
think
it's
it's in
not-
I think it's in the ordinance that you all deal
We
with
can find that
variance
out.
Yeah.
requests. So I don't, I'm not to say they couldn't try to change the code,
yeah,
but no.
What's the number of the ordinance?
27 and a half.
Oh, we
Oh,
got
we
legal.
got-
I mean, I remember we did it a million
Oh,
times.
Oh, yeah.
that's it.
Have you had any workshops with any developers over this at all yet?
Back when we were doing we're gonna hopefully have what we're calling a stormwater and coffee talk. It's basically, we had one for landscapers, those that maintain stormwater controls, where we sit down with them. There's coffee available and they ask us questions. We've got one scheduled for June 5th at the public library. We're gonna address it to the entire engineering and development community. So that's an opportunity, but back when we were revising the ordinance, we sent out lots of emails. We had, open houses, and so we didn't get a lot of feedback.
No,
A couple.
Can I ask a question? So back when you did the ordinance change to go to 60 feet,
Mhm.
we did have several stakeholder meetings to let
Yes,
them know.
yeah.
This really is just changing the variance process.
Yeah, it is, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't required before by the state. The state and they really don't care about where we're above the state minimums, and that's the one thing, we have a lot above the state minimum. We're not allowing averaging. In healthy streams, the state says you have to have a 30-foot buffer. Ours is 50 if it's a larger, so we're really going above the state minimum. I think the state likes that. But if they're asking a variance to city code, the state didn't need to know about it. It's where they're asking to get into the state's buffer.
We spent a really long time, Josh and I, advertising. We redid the whole, not just the variance request, but I mean the whole code section.
Yeah.
And the way it is written, I just showed it to Valerie. The water board would make the decision. The request is to Valerie, staff would vet it, go back and forth with the circumstances, good or bad, and then it will be brought to this board.
Yeah.
And I haven't studied it enough. If there's an appellate process from this
Yeah.
board, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of looking for.
Do you
but I
remember?
didn't see
I
it.
don't think so. I'll look into that.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Yeah.
So you would come with a recommendation to the board for us to override that bar needs to be very high or non-existent.
What's that now?
If you come with a recommendation to the
Mhm.
board for us to override your recommendation, that bar would have to be very high for us.
Should be.
Yeah, probably. I mean, by
We're
that,
opening up a can of worms.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
I'm
saying, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Because by the time it gets, you've looked at every option to say, we just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the situations, I'll go ahead and say, one of it was there was a deep lot. It had an existing house at the very rear of the lot, happened to be right up against the creek. Not right up, but we thought it was going to be within the buffer. And so they developed the front part of the land. And so they thought that they're going to have to get into the buffers for stormwater requirements, stormwater control measures. But then the house, we were thinking, if it were a 60-foot buffer, we were thinking that the house would sit inside of the buffer. And so we were wondering, did that need a variance? And anyway, it turned out that that was a 50-foot buffer instead of a 60, and so we avoided that, but that was kind of what made us think, yeah, we need to go ahead and get this. And, you know, the state's only seen one or two others when they approved ours. We're one of the first ones to get approved. So, yeah, I think that it's going to, by the time they get through this worksheet, and I've got another copy if you want, but by the time they get through this worksheet, you know, it's going to be, the last thing we want is, you know, to allow a variance and then it's going to impact the stream bank, or it's going to, you know, reduce the ability for the site to, you know, reduce stormwater pollution. So I think that's the reason for the eligibility worksheet, is to avoid all that. So.
And down the road, it's important to keep these streams clean in case we need a further expansion of our plant.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you, Puckett Creek, I think when I first started, it was listed for sediment. And it's got a buffer up and down, and the last time we pulled the bugs on it, it scores high, and I think it's a lot to do with the buffer and all the stormwater control measures. So, I mean, we believe the buffer works. It does a good job. You can just see it when you're walking out in the stream. I mean, places, luckily we have a lot of bedrock streams here, and so the banks are made of bedrock. You're not going to have a lot of erosion, but the places where the stream cuts down through the soil profile, if you don't have a buffer, you're losing feet of bank every 10 years or so. And so, and not only for the quality aspect, but just property, you know, everything else. So we're feel pretty good about the buffer policy, but we also think we need to give them a little bit of wiggle room if needed.
Yeah.
So.
That's good. Good discussion. Anybody else have anything? Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Next item is the bulk water agreement with Marshall County. Valerie, you will talk about this?
Sure. I just wanted to update you all, a little late on the update. You all can see, well, in 2020, May of 2020, we signed it and the board approved a purchase and sale agreement with Marshall County. It's a three-way agreement between us, Marshall County, and Consolidated Utility District. You can see our water service area in the top right corner in blue, and Rutherford County is in pink, although it kind of doesn't look pink, but that's where Consolidated Utility District will serve, and they serve as the pipeline to Marshall County, which is in the bottom left. And so the agreement was for a 5-year minimum, and it was to start the day that we started conveying water to Consolidated Utility District and on to Marshall County, which was in September of 2020. So the agreement was, and it started its, I guess the 5 years was in August of 2024. And so they did not necessarily meet the requirement, which was of the 5th year, but which was to have plans approved by TDEC for their water treatment plant expansion. And really it's just a new treatment plant. But they are meeting the 6th year. I talked to their engineer, which is Matthew Tucker with James C. Haley, who is also, James C. Haley does a lot of work for Consolidated Utility District, and he is finalizing his design, and they will be bidding the water treatment plant this summer and go under construction this fall. Not only do they have a water treatment plant, but I also got on TDEC's website, and they've got, they're working on permits for another water intake and a raw water line from, I guess, maybe from the intake to the plant. So wanted to bring you all up to speed on that. So looks like that they will meet, that they are meeting the 6 and 7 year requirement, but we'll keep our eyes on it, and just wanted to update you all. And if you got any questions.
We changed our price?
Have not changed our price. I don't know if we need to look into that, but
Cost of
we have
service,
not.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
cost-
supposed to change based on, we probably, yeah, the cost of service study
Wouldn't be included in
creates a wholesale rate, that wholesale
Alright.
rate.
So yeah, we may catch the tail end of the last year because our cost of service, we're getting the cost of service done this year. So we may catch the last couple
Anybody
of
have
years.
any questions for Valerie? Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Yes, who's next?
Guys, just get excited. I know, it's exciting stuff. No, I gave this,
Darren's gonna talk about the stormwater fee review.
yeah, thanks. So I can't advance the slides with this?
No, I think that's just a
Huh, that's good.
clicker.
I'm gonna have to
We can
say-
give you the, we can give
You
you
just
the.
have to.
All right, I'll just say next. All right, so next.
Well, here, we got that.
So, as you all know, we started this stormwater fee in 2008. It was $3.25. It's been at that same rate for 18 years. We have not raised it once. This is the revenue generation from starting around, it's FY10, which is around 2009. You can see it's averaged around just over 70, between $70,000 and $75,000 annually. So and that I think equates to about 150 acres of imperviousness, since the fee is based on, it's a residential fee of $3.25 per month, and the equivalent is 3,470 square feet of imperviousness. So that's about 150 acres of imperviousness per year added to the city. Next slide. This is what the fund balances look like from the beginning. You can see in FY08 it's at 0, and it climbed pretty quick, and we got a little criticism because we were putting more money in the reserves than we were spending on projects. So from about 2013 to 2017, 2018, we started to put more effort into those projects and drop that reserve fund. And you can see, hit it again, John, it's about 2016, we've kept it right around 4 million. So we've levelized that. So basically the revenues coming in are pretty much equaling the expenses going out at this point. We've just kept that fund balance right at 4 million. The reason that we're talking about, yeah, you can go and hit the next slide. The reason we're talking about, and we changed, I think, the policy back in 2018 or 2019, where we only had to maintain 3 months of reserves versus 12 months of reserves in the fund balance. 3 months of reserves is around $800,000, and we've got 4 million, so that just leaves us about 3.2 to spend on future projects. The Town Creek conveyance, which is about a $2.25 million project, and then this Mall Circle Drive drainage renovations, another 1.1. So you can see right there, we're at 335. You did just approve the $374,000 on the old Fort Ball Field. So if we really, and Town Creek is happening. It's been awarded, and they've already had a pre-construction meeting, and I think their notice to proceed started last week or two. Point is that if we do those 3 projects in the next couple of years, we will not be able to maintain that 3 months secured minimum balance of $800,000. So what we've proposed, and this is information only, but it's forthcoming, is to go to $350, $3.50 per month versus the $325. That would expect to generate about another $340,000 in FY26, and then go to $3.75 in FY27, which would generate about basically, if we continue to grow like we have, generate about $350,000. That is only going to obviously increase the fund balance by just $770,000 or so. So it's really still probably not enough to maintain that $800,000 minimum secured, but we don't want to overreact, I think, to a rate increase. We'd like to go through and incrementally change it. You can see the total here over the 5-year CIP is a $9.3 million. Now, as I told the city council, we've never really spent our 5-year CIP. We do like getting those projects on the board so that they're earmarked for stormwater fees, but we have the ability to back off of those projects if we need to kind of make sure we don't violate the policies. The only other option would be if we wanted to take away the policy altogether to say, hey, we don't need any reserves in the stormwater fund. Or we could say that stormwater fund is allowed to incur a debt service. And we could put some of these projects, right now the policy says stormwater fund does not incur debt. If we wanted to go out and get a $2, $3, $4 million loan, a nominal, and allow that debt service onto the fee, we could talk about that as well. Really just broaching this topic because it's been 18 years flat and $3.25, just like our tax increases a few years ago. What $3.25 can pay for today is a whole lot different than what $3.25 could pay for in 2008. So again, we're going to ask for that quarter through the budget process, and wanted to just inform you also if you had any heartburn or any questions or wanted to talk through it in more detail, we could talk to you.
I understand the reserve for the water department, but what's the reason for the reserve?
Well, we just emulated the water resources fund. I think we said at first it was 12 months, so we had to maintain about a 3.2 million in there, and so, I guess back when we set it up, it was probably more like 2.5 million. But it wasn't anything other than setting it up like the water resource fund, just emulating what we did for water resources.
There's clearly things that could happen unforeseen too, but if we had something stormwater, we could just pull back. A lot of these aren't.
A lot of
that can't be put off.
Well, if you looked at the
Some of these
CIP,
can.
a lot of them are water quality. If you go back to the thing, I think we label them, what neighborhood, so we've got water quality improvement projects, which I think can go towards, as you mentioned.
We're down to 3 months. It's not like it's a bunch, but still.
Public drainage, neighborhood projects, I mean, a lot of this, you're right. That's how we can maintain the balance. It's just ebb and flow is we just not do projects.
Yeah.
But we are going to do the Town Creek. I mean, there's $2.25 million going towards, I mean, that's going to drop the $4 million down substantially. We could probably, if we had to, we could do 50% stormwater, 50% general fund, the city fund for the mall circle drainage. I mean, we can work a deal, but I guess my point is that increasing the fund $73,000 a year. Yeah, gotcha.
I'm not sure
Of the policy.
service, all that.
It's not that critical. I wouldn't consider it critical, honestly, to maintain those reserves.
So if it wasn't there, the 3.2 wasn't there,
Right.
it would force you to decide to bring it out of the general fund, right?
Yes, it would have to be done through the general fund.
Without,
Yeah,
you would get it from somewhere else.
yes. We'd have to
Or incur
we'd get,
debt.
yeah. Or get debt service. But yeah, the general fund would have to fund these projects if the stormwater fee doesn't.
Well, no, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the neighborhood projects are to correct drainage issues in existing neighborhoods.
Yeah, yeah. It's done a lot of good. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm playing with the, is that the laser pointer?
That's the
Yeah.
pointer.
No, it's not a laser.
Oh, it's not.
The non-laser
That's the point,
pointer.
it's a little,
It's not great.
I don't like that.
looks like.
You may can change it. I've seen it as a finger before too. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I got distracted. My bad.
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel there, sorry. So I'm sorry, what was you saying about the project? We're not gonna do that, yeah, we was.
Yeah, I was just saying neighborhood projects, I think a lot of those are, prompted by homeowner complaints.
It is, it
Drainage
is.
issues that need to be
Well,
corrected that weren't.
And a lot of it is because we did want to demonstrate value. I mean, when people are paying this fee, they need to see that fee in action.
Absolutely.
So they need to see some of these improvements in their neighborhoods, these legacy issues that have been a ditch that hadn't been drained properly for
We've
years.
done a lot.
We've done a lot, done a whole lot. It's done a lot of good, for sure. And the next thing, the next question is like, you mentioned the permit. If the state tells us we need to go do a lot of projects in the upper reaches of the Stones River watershed, which is really outside the city limits, do we want to try to use the stormwater fee to fund a lot of those projects? That may be how, because we're going to probably get into the nutrient discussion, and instead of us putting a very expensive plant, enhanced nutrient removal at the plant, if we can broker a deal, if you so to speak, if we can go start doing the stormwater mitigation and doing nutrient removal in the upper reaches that may be outside the city limits inside the county. That's a cheaper solution, and if the state would let us trade credits for doing those improvements for the improvements for not having to do an advanced nutrient removal at the plant, again, the stormwater fee could be a mechanism to pay for that, or water and sewer there's a couple options there.
That's good.
Okay.
Done good, and we're keeping it.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else for Darren? All right, next item is the water sewer rate design review. Doug or Valerie, who's doing it?
I will, and may rely on Doug. He did a lot of the heavy lifting on this. So bear with me, this is my second time presenting this. First time was to council. So, this slide, I guess, our rate increases the rate increase that we're asking for this year was really programmed last year. It is based on needing to cover $120 million in debt. And I just wanted to, this is just a snapshot from the dashboard that's in your agenda now, just to kind of show you where that $120 million is I guess slated to be spent on, which is the Cherry Lane corridor, our biosolids processing equipment, and then hopefully an expansion that we're working on now. Some of, I guess, as the council is aware, our construction costs continue to increase on our capital projects, and this is another snapshot from our dashboard just to kind of show you what we have in the pipeline as far as dollars on our capital improvements for water and sewer, some tied to transportation and rehab, and then others are IT, some of our IT technology projects. So we are continuing to use our reserves where we can, but not go below our 12 months of secured balance of our operating expenses, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 million, a little plus. This graph just shows us our annual billing growth, water in blue, sewer in green, and how it has grown from 2023, and it stayed fairly even. The sewer billing is still continuing to grow just because we have sewer in consolidated utility districts water service area, and you can see our water has stayed flat just because we are not growing as far as our water because of the consolidated utility district service boundary. Next slide. This shows our water consumption growth. It's fair to stay similar to the last. It has stayed fairly even in each class with steady growth, and to push one more time, about 3.6% growth in 5 years. Next. This is just kind of represents our proposed minimum monthly bill increase per meter size. Our current on our residential meters right now is a minimum bill is $11. We're proposing to go up 25 cents. And you can see the increases per meter size there in the difference in increased column. We anticipate that this will, between our existing customers and anticipated growth, that this 25 cents would bring in about $330,000 additional dollars this year, this next year.
People actually get a minimum bill.
Oh. I don't know.
Just the minimum?
Just the minimum?
I think that.
I don't even know.
It ain't a lot of them. I mean, we don't have a lot of that. Most of them are landlords that haven't got a place rented yet or something like that, or apartment complex waiting to rent.
You can go to the next one, Dawn. Yeah. This is our sewer consumption growth, and as you can see again, it's growing more rapidly than our water, about 12.3% growth over 5 years. Again, that's because we are providing sewer in consolidated utility districts area. This slide is, kind of shows you what, on the sewer side of things, the 25% increase by meter size, and we anticipate between existing and growth, existing customers and our growth, that it'll bring in about $853,000 over the course of the next year, with a combined total of $1.18 million between water and sewer. This table reflects the minimum monthly charge of $11.25 and a 5 cent excuse me, increase on the commodity charge, and that is per 1,000 gallons. On the sewer side, we've got the 25 cent increase. However, we're staying the same on our commodity charge, and as you can see, what we've projected out, this may change based on our cost of service study that we'll be getting this year. And this slide, we just kept it in here. This is one that Darren had presented last year. It shows the combined bill and our increases over each year. This year we're at $70.23, and next year we anticipate it'll be $71.01. And last slide.
Slow.
Yeah, you can keep going.
This is 11 of 11. Oh,
Yeah.
the animations.
Yeah. This is, again, from last year, and it just shows that how we go out each year. If we don't increase our rates, that by the time we get to 2028, that we will be under recovering on the water and sewer side both. And so, okay. And we'll be bringing back the, the rate with the budget at next month.
Jackson Thorpe's not coming this year, they're coming next year.
This year.
They're coming this year?
Right, they'll do a June of 25 cost of service, so y'all will see it early next year.
Okay. All right, any questions for Val, Doug? All right,
Okay.
thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Next in front of you is a memorandum from John Strickland
Yeah.
on the sodium hypochlorite bleach contract renewal. John, will you discuss this, please?
Yes, so we originally bid this contract out in 2023, and it provided for annual renewals. We're bringing this back to you for the renewal. So the sodium hypochlorite is used in our reuse system. That's the irrigation, goes out to the soccer fields, the golf courses and whatnot, and also our dedicated farms. And we've budgeted about $200,000 in there. That's all weather dependent. You know, the more it rains, the less we can irrigate. The drier it is, the more we'll irrigate. But a little bit of good news on that. It seems that, the inflationary period that we saw back in the early 2020s is we've gone over the hump. So this contract is actually lower than the previous contract, coming down from $2.43 per gallon to about $2.14 per gallon.
What does it do? What is hypochlorite, sodium hypochlorite do?
It is a disinfectant. And so when we put it in the water, it further assures disinfection in the reuse system, because it could go out to a golf course or a soccer field. But also it maintains the distribution system, because there could be a bio-slime that can grow in the systems, and it keeps that clear also.
You don't want slime in your system.
It's bleach.
It's basically chlorine.
So you're looking for a motion to approve $200,000?
Specifically to approve this contract renewal.
Yeah.
And informationally, we intend to spend about $200,000.
Got a motion approved? a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the dashboard, Valerie or Doug, is anything, or anybody else from staff have anything to point out to the dashboard?
I did not make any changes to the dashboard, the CIP dashboard. Doug, you got anything?
No.
So, not anything
Nothing?
special.
Okay. May's our next meeting, and we'll meet as scheduled. Nothing going on there. All right, Darren, it's great to have you here.
Always a pleasure.
I went to the wrong place.
Oh, goodness.
I'm like,
Hey, don't say that in the minutes.
Strike.
sorry. That was Valerie.